empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, 8 point beat, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order. We have the bank edition today, boys and girls. We have the lead recruiting expert for BuckeyeScoop.com. He's going to be talking about all of the craziness that is going on. We have 1 week of high school football in the books. We have maybe the biggest weekend of the year for Ohio State recruiting with this Notre Dame game coming up. A lot of activity. We're trying to hang on to some kids in the class. We're trying to go get some more kids in the class. With NIL, recruiting truly never sleeps. But as always, we give thanks to you. Thank you so much for making these videos so popular. You guys are growing our channel. Thank you for subscribing, liking the comment. I need you to comment. Which player do we need to get? Is it and it could be a kid that we have a 5% chance at or a kid that we have a 99% chance at. So who do we need to get? Is it Samson Okunloa? Is it Mateo? I mean, there's a lot of kids out there that are 5-star kids that would really be crown jewels to this class. Who do we need to get? Leave it in the comments. As always, thank you guys for doing that. Really helps the video grow. Appreciate you guys. Without further ado, I have Bill the Bank Greene. Bank, how are you tonight?
Good, man. How you doing?
Man, I love talking to you. I love talking recruiting. Recruiting has never been more insane than it is right now because of NIL, and
Right.
there's never been less loyalty and less, commitments have never meant less than they do right now. So after the Quinn Ewers deal, where we had the number 1 kid in the country leave after 3 months and go to Texas and get more millions down there, it's you just don't even know what to do with it anymore. But just give me we're through 1 week of high school football throughout the country. Give me some initial takes of what you've heard, what you've seen, what you've liked. Brandon Innes had a huge day. Arvell Reese looked really good. What have you heard and seen in the first week?
Yeah, Brandon Innes was the big thing for me. I've always liked him, and I've always thought he's really good. But there was just maybe a little side of me that thought he might be a tad overrated. And I probably sounds stupid, but I don't know, man. What I saw last week against a really, really good team was pretty dominant. I mean, I think Brandon looked faster and quicker. He's always had great hands. He's always had, he's kind of had that old man strength. I don't think he's a killer weight room guy, but man, is he strong. I mean, DBs bounce off him. He's always had that. But man, did he look fast and quick in and out of those breaks like lightning. I mean, he's better, and great players, they should get better every year. I remember reading something about Magic Johnson about 6 years into the NBA talking about trying to get better, So I loved what I saw out of Brandon Innes. I mean, that was a pretty dominant performance. And you would have to think going into that game that, the team from Georgia, their game plan would have been, we're going to stop Brandon Innes. Number 1, we're going to stop him, let everybody else beat us, but he ain't going to beat us. Well, he beat him. I mean, that was a pretty amazing performance by Brandon. So, man, he is a better player than what we thought he was. I would leave it at that.
Yeah, he had 240 yards receiving, multiple touchdowns, long touchdowns. He plays really mean. Like, I love him. He reminds me a lot of Santonio Holmes. Santonio played with an edge, a nasty attitude. Not every receiver is built like Santonio Holmes with that nastiness, and he's not scared to go in and crack a linebacker and talk some trash to him when he's laying there on the ground. I mean, and I love that about Brandon. I mean, Brandon is a super competitive kid. He's a kid that has a lot of pride. Really, he brings juice every day. Reminds me in that regard of like Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's a guy at practice every day. He's kind of the injection of nitrous oxide into the crew, or if people are flat, like Garrett's always bouncing off the walls. And I think Brandon's going to fit in great with Brian Hartline in that wide receiver room. Moving on to Notre Dame. I know you've been around Ohio State for a long time. There's been some big recruiting weekends. How does this one rank in terms of the talent that is coming in terms of recruits, and in terms of just the magnitude of this game? It being the opener, being 2 top 5 teams, Marcus Freeman coming back. Where does this one rank for you?
Man, it's up there high because there are like a ton of storylines for this one. You mentioned most of them there. I mean, this is an amazing game. You usually don't get this for an opener. You usually want the cupcake first. And, sometimes you don't see like the bigger match up till week 3,
Mhm.
but to open up like this, I mean, it's unbelievable. This is off the charts. And the recruiting, I was told today that they're still working on some kids here. So the list could grow, and the nice thing for Ohio State, to me, Keon Keeley coming in, you're going to get your shot, and that's all you want. If you're Ohio State, they do official visits as well as anyone in the country. Um, I would say better than 99% of the places in the country. They know what they're doing. Mark Fantoni, not his first rodeo. He's done enough official visits and he knows exactly how to do it. He knows how to tailor them toward each kid. So, player A may not be as interested in certain things as player B is. And that's their job to know exactly how to tailor this visit. And I like the fact that it's a night game. When it's a noon game and you got kids showing up, you just don't have time in the morning to see them. Well, when you're not kicking that ball off till late in the day, and these kids will trickle in at all different times, I mean, you can really spend a lot of time with them that normally you do not get on even a 3:30 game. It's not the same. So I'm looking forward to this. The main thing for me is right now is Keon Keeley. I mean, can they pull him? You're going against the one team you don't want to go against. You
Yeah.
choose anybody in America, but going against Bama. But they've won battles against Bama before. I know people feel like it's impossible, when you go against Nick Saban, and that's just not the case. I mean, we can point out Brandon Innes was at Alabama on an official visit like 10 days before he committed to Ohio State. So Nick
Mhm.
doesn't get them all. Okay.
Mhm.
So it seems like he does, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
And Ohio State can win battles against him, and they do win battles against him. Alabama would love to have Carnell Tate. So, back off it's Alabama, so Ohio State has no chance. That's just not true. You get your shot, you take your best shot, you put your best foot forward. If it's good enough, it's good enough, and not, then you move on. But I'm really anxious to see. I know that the Ohio State commits have a good dialogue going with Keon Keeley, and a couple of those guys feel pretty positive that they got a shot here. So Keon is reaching out to them and there's good camaraderie there. So that's usually a good sign, I think. It has been in the past. So I'm not calling Keon Keeley to Ohio State. I'm just saying Ohio State is in this. They're going to take their shot, and it's either good enough or it's not.
And obviously I know that Nick Saban he's so good at what he does. He's incredible. But based on position group, when you have kind of a Larry Johnson versus
Yes.
Nick Saban type thing, does that give you more confidence? Because it seems like we went on the defensive ends a lot. But does that give you more confidence?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, LJ is just, who doesn't like him? Who doesn't respect him? And he can point to Chase Young, the Bosa's, Sam Hubbard. He's got a track record that's
Hmm.
not made up. You know what I mean? It's have Nick tell you the DNs he's put in the league. I'm going to tell you the DNs I've put in the league, and let's see. Another thing I like is Keon was committed to Notre Dame, so that shows a willingness to come to the Midwest.
Hmm.
So I think that's kind of a thing there too, where he's not. I don't think he's afraid to go far from home. And I think, with Ohio State, you kind of almost get a happy medium between Notre Dame and Alabama. Ohio State's kind of they can offer everything Alabama offers, and they can really offer everything Notre Dame can offer. So to me, it kind of makes sense here, but yet, you're going against Nick. So, you'd rather go against any other team in America but Alabama for this kid. But Ohio State, when people say, well, you can't beat him, well, they have beaten him. They've beaten him this year for kids. So shoot your shot. It's either good enough or it's not.
Yeah, and Tampa. I mean, honestly, this is probably just a small part of the equation, but like there are a lot of direct flights from Tampa to Columbus. Man, they're easy to get on, and parents can be up here in 2 hours because I take those flights all the time. And again, that doesn't mean anything instead of flying into Birmingham, but there's not a direct Tuscaloosa to Tampa. So I mean, and again, that's just a small thing, but I always think about if your parents got to travel up or you want to go home and get on a direct flight is money, especially when you're a college kid and your parents are coming. So,
and when you mention money, I mean, now with NIL, maybe there's some sort of a way that, it can be worked out, you never know. So I hope so.
Yeah, Jordan Addison just got one of the best NIL deals I've ever seen because he's got a deal with United Airlines now.
Yeah.
Which is so you get an airline deal and all of a sudden you don't have to worry about that anymore. So
and somebody in Columbus would step up for Keon Keeley. He's a star. You know what I mean? He's not a backup guard. This guy's a star. So he'll have NIL. If he comes to Ohio State, he'll have NIL deals in place, and mom and dad won't have to worry about the cost of flights.
I love it. So we're gonna kind of just run down the class real quick. I don't think you have no concerns. I mean, Brock Glenn's solid, correct?
I would have to think so. Yes.
Yep.
I mean, I can't think anything could change for him.
Gotcha. All right, now I'm going to move on to a more fun one. Mark Fletcher. How are you feeling about him right now?
I feel good, but Miami wants him desperately. And Miami is pushing the boundaries of NIL. I'm not saying they're crossing the line, but man, their foot's touching the line. I'll tell you that right now. There have been calls. I can guarantee you, there have been calls made to the NCAA on Miami. I know 2 schools. Not one of them not being maybe Ohio State. I don't know. I don't know if Ohio State has or not. I know 2 schools have called in, kind of wanting the NCAA to look into what Miami's doing. And I have no idea. It may be 100% legal, above board, and they may just be killing it right now. But, they want Mark Fletcher. So far, I expect Mark Fletcher to be in Columbus for the Ohio State game. And so far, he's saying everything and saying all the right things. So, but that one, you're going to have to watch that one until the fact comes in.
You think this will be a second signing day or first signing day facts?
I think first.
Okay.
Ohio State hopes it's first.
Yeah, I think we all do. That's kind of how it is now. I'm going to lump Ennis, Rogers, and Rogers. So Brandon Ennis, Bryson Rogers, Noah Rogers. Any concern there?
Yeah, Carnell Tate in that group too. Well, Miami wants Brandon. I mean, I'm sure they'd love to have Carnell. Tennessee's probably working up a $20 million deal for Carnell. I mean, with those wide receivers, I mean, I don't know of anything that's imminent, but those are good players, man. Those are difference makers. All 4 of them. So we'll see. I mean, I know of nothing that makes me think the wide receivers, any of them are looking around, but I know they're all going to get attention all the way home. Those guys.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be interesting. This next one, a little bit of concern about Jelani Thurman. How are you feeling about him?
Man, that guy's a great freaking player. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, he is an amazing talent. I haven't seen him in person. I've watched a lot of his film because I never thought Ohio State was going to get that kid. Yeah. And when he committed, I went and watched this film, and it's like, holy crap, this guy's good, man. I mean, he can do things that I'm trying to think back on tight ends that we've seen play at Ohio State. I'm not, you got to go back like Ricky Dudley maybe to see a Jelani Thurman. That kid's big time. I mean, if somebody wants to tell me he's the best tight end in America, I'm in. I agree. No argument from me. That's special. That's a special freaking talent there that you can literally send him down the seam and he's going to beat people. Where some of these tight ends, and some of them are in the NFL. Some of these guys who have played in the NFL, they don't have the talent Jelani Thurman has. Okay?
Yeah.
That's a dude.
Yeah. You feel good about him signing for signing day?
Today I do, yeah.
So I ask you tomorrow, it might be a 180. Yeah, he's a monster.
Who wouldn't want Jelani Thurman? You know what I mean? Who wouldn't the Miami people or the Tennessee people or the A&M people that are, out in front of this NIL stuff. Man, I mean, you got to fight to keep that guy. I mean, he's
Yeah.
big time. And I think a lot of Ohio State fans have kind of glossed over Jelani Thurman because when they see tight end, they automatically think, we don't throw him the ball anyway. Who cares?
Yeah.
They're going to throw the ball to this guy.
Yeah.
They're throwing the ball to Jelani Thurman. I promise you they are.
Yeah, he's a Darren Waller type athlete. Like, I mean, this guy can get open. He's big. His dad was. His dad would have been a Pro Bowler multiple times if he didn't have his off the field issues, and he's cleaned his life up since then. So it's just I love this kid. I mean, would you take him if you could have him or Ty Lockwood? I know Ty's gone for good, but do you like him better? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you. Yeah,
I like Ty Lockwood. I mean, I think he's a good player. I think he's a Nick Vannett, that type of player. I mean, he's a starter. He's a Power 5 starter by sophomore year. He's good. Jelani Thurman to me is so special because Ohio State just they don't line up with those kind of guys. You know what I mean? I don't know. Have you seen a Jelani Thurman since Ricky Dudley, maybe?
I mean, the only guy. Special. The only guy that's been close was my boy, and he was only here for about 6 months, was Louis Irizarry. Because Louis he was a special athlete, and he was a freak show on the field. No, I know. I mean, Louis was a kid that I thought was going to be a 3-and-out kind of guy. He was one of my best friends. He got mixed up in the wrong stuff. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's in my recruiting class. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's the best tight end prospect I've ever seen in Ohio. We've seen some, pretty good guys gone on to have good careers in the NFL. Louis Irizarry, the most talented tight end prospect I've ever seen in Ohio. And that was about when I got into this business. I mean, he was eye-popping then. And you put his film in today, it's still eye-popping.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put that film in and show it to a college coach and don't tell him the name or the year, and he's going to be like, I want that kid. Get me that kid.
God, then you take him to camp and he runs a 4.5, and he's 245 pounds and 5% body fat. Yeah, I mean, and the funniest thing, he had all these off the field issues when I was there. He was an engineering major, National Honor Society student, 4.0 kid at Ursuline. So I mean, it's not like this kid was in like sociology and a 1.2 GPA, and I mean, he was killing it. And I mean, he was like one of my really good friends. And again, like I used to watch, we had guys like, and Bobby Carpenter couldn't cover him. And there are guys like, he'd run scout team routes and like, he'd be getting in fights because guys couldn't run with him because he was so good. And, he just got derailed. And that's part of the reason why I tell people, I'm like, look, God bless every recruit we get, but they got to prove they can handle college first, because my recruiting class was the worst in Ohio State history because half the class was gone within a year. So we had 16 and 8 were gone in 1 year. So, I mean, these buddies that are all homeboys with their recruits and best friends for life, and mine were gone. I mean, it was like Darius Hiley gone, Reggie Smith gone. And I mean, Darius Hiley was as heralded of a guy as there's ever been at Ohio State. He's 5 stars, number one.
Before there was Teddy Ginn, and Ted Ginn Sr. will tell you that.
Yeah.
That Hiley might have been more talented than his own son.
Yeah, and Ted Ginn Jr. will say that to you too. He said that to me. He said Soup was the OG. I mean, he was on the map before Troy Smith, before Dante. Yeah. He's the same age as Dante, but he played as a freshman. He was playing quarterback as a freshman at varsity against St. Ed's in like the playoffs. I mean, he was a legend, man. And it just, but I mean, that's just is what it is, man.
When your nickname is Superman and you're coming from Glenville and you're the Superman over all them dudes, you're a dude.
Yeah, exactly. It's like being the Superman of South Florida Express. If Ricky and your boys are calling a kid Superman, you're like over Ennis and Amari Cooper and guys that have made $150 million in the NFL, and you're calling that guy Superman. So that's, it's like, your boy 6-star Joyner, and like, when guys get certain nicknames, you're sitting there, you're just like, holy cow, like that's got to be some heavy praise, because they don't just dole out nicknames like that to guys that are just average players.
Right.
Continuing on, it looks like Mateo might make it in. Your thoughts on where that one's at? Obviously, I don't know if you've seen how he looks recently, but he looks like an NFL defensive end like today. I mean, he looks fantastic, like low body fat, super lean, but he's big. He's like 265 now, and he is a fluid looking dude. He reminds me of JT, because I said about JT Tuimoloau, and I'll get killed for this, but if he actually played tight end, he'd be like a Pro Bowl tight end. Like he is a great. I mean, I said that to Big Dave. I texted him that last night because I was watching him run routes in the game the other night, and I'm like, he'd be an NFL tight end like tomorrow. He's 6'6", he runs like a deer, great hands. He's doing 360 dunks and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, like, But if you like DN, that's great. I mean, DNs get paid a lot more than tight ends do, but I don't know. Your thoughts on Mateo? Our chances with that? I mean, because I know we've got 3 5-star DNs that are on the board, and it's like, what are our chances of getting 1, 2, or none?
Well, they're in the game for all 3. I will say that. With Mateo, there was such a connection with Dad, Mateo to Larry Johnson. I mean, it was you could see, it was evident because I was there at camp. Well, you were there at camp that day too. And, you can see it in people's faces that they were so impressed with Larry Johnson. There was a connection there with that kid. And again, you bring up Joey, Nick, Che. You don't even need to mention last names, right? When you don't have to mention the last names, you've done good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
First name basis. I produced those guys. So there's a connection there. And it just seemed like, Big Dave seemed pretty comfortable around Ohio State. And Mateo was eating everything up. They're still in the game there. I worry about USC there with their NIL program. And Mateo is a huge, music guy. He's looking at a possible career in music after football. And when they bring in Snoop and the boys, they can bring in some hitters to talk to Mateo. I really worry about USC, even though most people say USC is running third, with Oregon and OSU in the 1 or 2 spot, and USC running third. But I would be concerned about USC just with what they can do, to show that kid that he should be there. I think, Lincoln Riley's doing it right now. And then they can bring in some heavy hitters from the music industry to tell him, go ahead and play 10 years in the NFL. And then when you're 30 some years old, we got you in your second career in music. They can put a pretty picture together there, I think.
Yeah, I worry about USC. His childhood idol was Reggie Bush. That's the reason why he wears number 5. Reggie obviously played at SC. The depth chart is a lot cleaner at SC than it is here. But now in 2 years, when he actually gets here, you'll have Jack and those guys are third-year guys. They'll be going pro in all likelihood. And then our depth chart looks pretty clean too. But I think with Mateo, the number one thing by far for him is development, and he works with the front, which is Big Dave's brother's company. They actually put out some monsters on the D-line. Their offensive tackle just committed to Bama that they've been promoting. So they got some big dudes up there, but all of the front's drills and teaching techniques are literally from Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson's teach tapes. So, I think
it's good you said that because it kind of leads me into someone who, let's say someone who's familiar with this recruitment has told me that is the number one thing in Big Dave's mind because there's some uncertainty with how he sent DJ to Clemson and the development is not happening there, And I think Big Dave is looking at that thinking, forget the music career, we got to get you to the NFL, and it doesn't look like the Big Bro's headed there right now. Big Bro may lose his job here in a couple weeks. So I think someone had told me that who's pretty close to this recruitment. And then it just kind of clicked when you said that just now. It was like, yeah, I was told that about 6 weeks ago, that the fact that DJ is not doing so well on the development stage could be the biggest thing for Larry Johnson in Ohio State. He's going to want to make sure that the little bro is developed. That's a big plus for Ohio State.
Yeah, it's paramount. And the thing about LJ, he's at the age now where, he's not likely, tragically, he's not likely to be a head coach.
No.
He's older now. People are using the retirement thing against him. But, he seems really spry, reinvigorated. I think that Jim Knowles' scheme, which frees up his pass rushers to be kind of the artists that they are, where they can use their spin moves and their inside rushes, which they weren't allowed to do last year just due to the scheme. I think that that's reinvigorated them. I think that having an incredibly talented room right now with these sophomores reinvigorated him. And I think he has more gas in the tank than people give him credit for. Because if you go out and get, say like the jackpot happens and we get Keon Keeley and Mateo in the same class. I mean, then it's like you're reloaded again. And plus, he's making like $800,000 to be a D-line coach. I mean, it's not, that's probably more than he made in the first 30 years of coaching that he was doing. So
how old is he? Is he 64, 65?
I'm not sure.
When I was a kid, that looked old. To me, that looks young. You know what I mean? Like, he's my age or younger than me or whatever. We're close in age. What's he going to do all day? Why does he want to retire? You know what I mean?
That's my point, man.
He's not 90. You know what I mean? He's not 90 years old with a walker. He's in his 60s. That's, it's old to you guys. It's not old to me, I promise you. So what's he going to do? Why would he retire? What would he do? You know what I mean? You can play golf every day. Well, there's 5 hours. What are you doing the other 19 hours a day? There's no reason for him to retire. You know what I mean? I think he's going to coach another 4 or 5 years. Or longer. You know what I mean? Nick Saban's not going anywhere. Nick Saban's older than Larry Johnson.
Yeah, he signed an 8-year contract.
Yeah,
an 8-year extension.
I don't get all the Larry Johnson retirement rumors. If he was 81 years old, bring it up. But someone in his early to mid 60s, that's not old in today's society. Especially to me, it's not.
Well, especially like when you've got like a good job, he's the D-line coach at Ohio State. So it's not like he's at, Purdue and he has to worry about getting fired. He works for a head coach who just signed a long extension. Head coach loves him. He retained him after last year. When he got rid of everybody except LJ.
Yeah.
So LJ, LJ's, exactly. Cause he's a recruiting machine. His room's productive. I think they're going to have a big year, like a bounce back type year this year. And, with him, we're in it for every 5-star DN on the planet because of who he is, the system he runs. Again, when Bama runs that, that odd defense and they're holding up the tackle versus, who's their star pass rusher? Will Anderson, outside linebacker. He's listed as a linebacker on All-American teams, not listed as a DN. So a lot of these kids that are true DNs, like Nicky Bosa and Joey, they want to play with their hand on the ground. And, they teams that are 3-4 teams like the Chargers they still let Joey put his hand on the ground a lot just because that's what he's good at. He likes being in his track stance. He likes coming off the edge. He likes beating tackles. He doesn't want to be dropping into the zone coverage. And anytime I see a guy like Joey Bosa dropping his zone coverage, I'm like, man, these NFL guys are overpaid and dumb because I'm just like, that guy should rush every single play without question, And most of these guys are, committed guys, shoo-ins. We got to talk about our young guy. We got our guy Toney. Tell me a little bit about him. South Florida Express guy, freshman with Brandon Inniss. You got some good feedback on Malachi Toney. He's a 2026. I can't believe I just said that out loud. But he's a freshman starting opposite Brandon Inniss. Had a big game over 100 yards versus a really good team in Georgia. Those guys rode the bus 5 hours to get to Georgia and play that team. So that's hard.
That is not a problem for those Florida kids. We saw him fly here, get a McDonald's bag, change into shorts, and then dominate the Ohio State camp with a lot of studs there. So that ain't gonna be a problem for them kids.
I love this because I remember that I was like, they probably ate like the peanuts on the plane or the crackers, and then an Oreo cookie, and then like whatever. Yeah, because you get airplane food, you get like Oreos and like a Diet Coke, and you drink it, and then you head out and roast everybody that's covered. And I was like, oh my god, they're beasts, man. But no, tell me a little bit about Malachi.
Well, what I liked about him is he played his first varsity game the other day. He's just a baby. I don't know. He might have played varsity last year because you can play varsity as an 8th grader. I don't know that he did. He might have. But the thing I liked is when the South Florida Express flies to Vegas for that big 7-on-7 tournament, you can't take everybody that you have. You got to pair that thing down because it's too expensive to take, all your kids there. You can only take guys that are going to contribute. They took that kid to Vegas with Tate, Ennis, JoJo Trader, Jeremiah Smith, but that guy's in there and he contributed. I asked Brett Getz about him and I said, did he play? And he said, yeah, we played him. You have to play him. You got to play all your guys. Everybody has to play. Everybody has to contribute in a big tournament like that. And Malachi's contributes. Before he's played a down of freshman football. He's out there with Tate, Ennis, Trader, Smith, them guys. And those guys, you know how they are. They want to win. They're not putting the illustrator out there to help his career. They don't care. They're there to win. And this kid's a contributor on that kind of team. So and then he shows up for, Heritage in week 1. He blows it up with over 100 yards. I mean, the kid's 15 years old. He's just a baby, but he's on the recruiting radar. And, we saw the helmet sticker he had, so.
I loved it. For people that didn't see it on BuckeyesScoop.com, he had a giant Ohio State logo on his back helmet sticker. I've literally never seen that before, ever. Like, I mean, next to his helmet number. Yeah, it wasn't like a little tiny. This is like something you put on the back of your car, your car tailgate or something on your truck or something. It was like, well, I think that looks good for us. That Vegas tournament, their quarterback was Malachi Nelson, who is the number 1 player in the country for 2023. He's a kid that A&M allegedly offered $15 million to try to flip from USC. He's the biggest reason why Dylan isn't going to SC is because he's that good, and the path wouldn't have been as clear to starting as it is at Ohio State with Malachi there because he's really, really good. And so that was the quarterback. So then your DBs are Cromani, Dijon Johnson. So the South Florida Express team had more stars than the Milky Way, basically, because 5-star number 1 overall quarterback. Yeah, and so, for a kid like that to be on that field, not be scared, not be intimidated, and contribute, because, again, these guys, these 7-on-7 tournaments it's like a gladiator match, because, I mean, it is, it's war, and they got to do pool play. They're playing, 5-6 games a day. It's hot as hell because they're in Vegas. I mean, it's not
and it's 100 all man on man. It's all man on man stuff. You don't get any help.
No.
So you got to be able to contribute. If you can't contribute, you're going to get run off the field, laughed off the field, trash talked off the field. It's people make fun of 7-on-7. It's like girly. It's a man's thing. I'm telling you, 7-on-7. It's all trash talking, and when you get beat, it's awful for you. I mean, you're going to get your manhood challenged real quick. And if you can't get open as a wide receiver, it's going to be get him off the field. And it's loud. Those guys don't care about feelings. They're not worried about that. It's get him the F off the field now. Don't put him back in. And everybody hears it. So, the people that think it's like a girly little thing, they need to go. They need to go and see one of those big tournaments and see those kids when they lose. It's like somebody's lost the Super Bowl. I mean, they're not there goofing around.
There's
and the people that are involved, the coaches, they're there to win.
So, they get
and the kids. I mean, that's the thing that shocked me with 7-on-7 is how badly those kids want to win. I mean, it's war for those kids. I mean, and I never thought it was like that until I got in, because we don't have it in Ohio. So I kind of learned from the Florida 7-on-7 stuff, and it was like, man, I can't believe how competitive these things are. I mean, they fight to the death because every matchup it's a one-on-one matchup. Yeah. And nobody likes to lose. You don't want to lose one-on-one. And that's what they are.
Yeah, and like, we had Brett Getz and Ricky, the owner and the GM respectively of South Florida Express, and I mean, they flat out said, we're screaming at each other. I mean, the coaches get heated up and a lot of trash talking, a lot of intensity. And I love that because I think that those environments, they make, it's never going to make like a place like Alabama or Georgia or Death Valley less intimidating. But, when you're used to trash talking and loud and insanity, I think it makes you conditioned to it where it doesn't, I mean, the lights might be a little bit brighter, the stadium might be a little more big, but you're used to the the energy and really being held accountable. Because if you're manned up on you're manned up on Brandon Innes and you get scorched, like your teammates are, they're not going to say maybe next time. They're going to let you have it. And you told me a great story about Dijon and Cromani, and Cromani wasn't having a great day, and Dijon was, and the guy said,
and Tater screaming, "Get him off the field!"
And this is
buddies with him. But if you're costing the organization, they were screaming to get Cormani off the field because Cormani was having a bad day. He's a great player, having a bad day, and can't afford to have a bad day. Bad day, and you go home.
Yeah. And Cromani is the number 1 rated cornerback in the country, a 5-star kid. Yeah, and he just committed to Alabama. So it's like, it's not like it's some, little brother that got brought along. Like, this is like a real dude. And, he wasn't having a good day. And if you're not having a good day, you get exposed in 7-on-7.
And your stars don't matter. Your stars don't travel with you. 5-star, 1-star, 2-star, those stars don't travel. You got it or you don't.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. Well, I can't wait to go down to Naples and go to the South Florida Express deal. That's going to be a blast. I'm sure we'll have some Scoop people show up, and we'll go have some chicken wings after. It'll be a blast. Appreciate you, Bank, as always. Thank you, my man. That was a great show. Anything to close this thing out for the Scoop fam and for Buckeye Nation? Anything to look for the next 2 weeks leading up to Notre Dame?
It seems like I say this every time we've spoken in the last month, but boy, what you want is no injuries. No injuries. And I know they don't hit the quarterbacks, but nobody hit Braxton Miller that day either. You just don't want any problems. You know what I mean? Get through this, get to game week, and my thing is always no injuries. We've seen teams have crippling injuries so far. Notre Dame has had a couple.
Oh God, yeah. They lost their best offensive lineman.
They lost the wideout, who's a big time player, and you don't want that. You know what I mean? Let somebody else have those injuries. You don't want. That's what I look for right now. Is get your starters, get your backups set. Don't let anyone get hurt. I know that Ohio State's had a few nicks, but I think the core is intact. I think they're going to be fine. Right now. So you don't want anything more to happen from now on in.
Yeah. Well, that is all you need, man. Because I'm telling you, you got to get, like Jim Tressel and Jim Bowman say, get them to the game. Because you can beat the tar out of them, and then they're hurt, they're broken, and their knees are torn out, and it doesn't help anybody. You got to get guys to the game. So if guys nicked up, take care of them, especially if he's a premium guy like a Jackson Smith or Paris. I'd put Paris in bubble wrap. I'd put Trey Henderson in bubble wrap, and let's get them to the game, baby. Don't let anything possibly happen to those kids, because if they're clean for the game and they're ready to rock, then we're going to be in really good shape. So
I agree. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Lock this thing down. That being said, I appreciate you guys tuning into this episode. Build a Bank Greene. He is the best in the business in the recruiting space. He is a fantastic resource. Nobody does South Florida like the bank. I appreciate you guys so much. BuckeyeScoop.com is on fire right now. We are adding subscribers. Thank you to our new subscribers. Thank you for really spicing this board up. Our message board has been super active lately. Appreciate you guys enjoying this content. Again, likes really help this video. Please comment, what recruit do we need? And you can, I'll let you guys do 2 or 3 recruits if you want. What are the 2 or 3 recruits you would like for this class to add to round it out and make it the #1 class in the country? So go ahead, leave that in the comments down below. Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much. Thank you, Buckeye Nation, as always. Thank you, Scoop family. I appreciate you guys. Go Bucks. Have a great rest of your day.